What's up guys, this is Darkbblue, a gamer who loves Souls-like games, looter games, and every game that involves build making. No Rest for the Wicked is quite a fusion genre. In the last video, I tried to interpret this game from the perspective of a Souls player. But I've been inspired to take a different perspective, considering this game's backbone as a looter game. And in this way, both Souls-like elements and survival elements make solid sense, making me believe this is the correct way to understand No Rest for the Wicked. In this video, I will share with you this new perspective. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's dive right into it. Looter game is a quite classic genre, but there have been always two major drawbacks affecting its game experience. The combat is rather boring in most looter games, and grinding is usually too heavy. Apparently, No Rest for the Wicked has introduced Souls-like and survival designs to solve the two problems respectively. Next, let's go into details. So what makes me think the combat in typical looter games is boring? Let's see an example from Grim Dawn, a high-quality Diablo-like game. So in this game, when your build is completed, the combat is usually simply standing there and rotate your skills. Melee classes fight in this way, and even sorcerers fight in this way. So although Grim Dawn is quite famous for its diverse and abundant build possibilities, this build feels somehow similar when it comes to how they fight. To solve this problem, No Rest for the Wicked alters its combat into a Souls-like design. With such a combat design, it's now possible to perform more accurate maneuvers, making the combat much more engaging. And what about the heavy grinding? It's common for a looter game to offer a special dungeon that is both very hard and rewarding. That's where players need to spend their most time in endgame. But it's obvious that such grinding takes a very long time, and going to the same dungeon over and over is quite boring as well. In No Rest for the Wicked, survival serves as an alternative way for grinding. You don't always have to go farming the open world or grinding in the Crucible. It's also a feasible method to level up your city and then transform your money and resources into good gears without ever stepping out of the city. That's how the grinding can be made more lightweighted. Furthermore, in No Rest for the Wicked, your character's save file and world save file are separated, which is a design I think also belongs to survival games. It means it's quite easy to create a new character. You don't have to go through the story again, and you can farm some EXP potions for the new character so that it gets into endgame almost instantly. Now you can see, by considering the backbone of No Rest for the Wicked as a looter game, the design of both Souls-like and survival parts make much sense. I have to admit, I didn't quite understand why the devs decided to introduce survival elements into this game when I was understanding this game from a Souls-like perspective, but now the survival designs are much more reasonable to me. After this overview, I will next try to go deeper into the looter designs of No Rest for the Wicked. Of course, this is not intended to be a guide video, telling you how to max out a build. Instead, this is to help you better understand this game's design philosophy and see if there's anything that can be improved. When playing a looter game, the two questions we are most interested in are how to grind and grind for what. Let's talk about how to grind in No Rest for the Wicked first. Currently, there seem to be four viable grinding methods. The first one is Crucible, a very typical looter game design. Of course, it's hard and rewarding, and it's okay to farm it. But this doesn't truly show the ambition of the devs, as it's just the same as other looter games. So let's move to the second method. All the open world maps are grindable. The enemies, chests, and resources can respawn, so you can of course get rewards by going into these maps. The enemies will change from time to time, and I've heard that there can even be new obstacles to force you to take a different route, improving the replayability. Furthermore, some gears that previously only drop in the Crucible start to drop from all sources once you finish the Crucible for the first time, which is a sign that the game encourages you to do something else than the Crucible. So apparently, No Rest for the Wicked wants you to get out of the repeated Crucible and grind in these open world areas. But at the current patch, this seems to be less rewarding than the Crucible. Consequently, I expect the devs to add a new function allowing us to toggle the difficulty of open world areas so that they can be as rewarding as the Crucible. So far we have covered two ways to grind. Crucible is the classic design in looter games, while open world areas can make grinding feel less repeated. However, both of them still require you to manually grind, thus unable to make the grinding less heavy. Next, we will see two ways to grind more easily. First, daily quests. There are bounties and challenges, where bounties are relatively harder while challenges are rather easy. Since these quests won't refresh until one day in reality has elapsed, they are a way to make the grinding less heavy. Currently, daily quests are not very rewarding, but I hope they can be more important in the future. In this way, even if you don't have the time to grind the Crucible a lot, you can still get yourself a good build. The only difference between you and a heavy player is that it takes you more days, but the limited time to be spent on games doesn't make it totally impossible for you. Besides daily quests, you can also grind through survival elements. You know, it's a very common thing in survival games to construct some automatic pipelines to gather resources or materials. If such automatic pipelines can be integrated into a looter game, the grinding part will become lightweighted, of course. At present, the survival elements in No Rest for the Wicked are not as rewarding as I wish. Indeed, you can transform your resources into good gears in the city, but how can you get these resources? You still need to grind for them manually. So there should be ways to automatically gain resources in this game, surely making the grinding less heavy. In summary, as a looter game, No Rest for the Wicked is trying to make the grinding different from more typical designs. With the grindable open world areas, the grinding can feel less repeated. And with both daily quests and survival elements, this game can be friendly to those who have very limited time on games. Yet, there should still be more improvements in future patches. Next, let's cover what you are grinding for in No Rest for the Wicked. Currently, fully modifying a gear requires a base gear, enchantment, gems, runes, and upgrading. You always need to first get a base gear, be it an axe or a great hammer, whatever you like. Base gears can be grinded, but you can also craft or buy one. Enchantment is what you call random attributes in typical looter games. But in No Rest for the Wicked, you don't have to always pursue the highest rarity. Golden means manually designed gears which are fun but not necessarily the best. Blue and purple are random effects, with blue having only positive attributes, but purple having one negative one and several strong positive attributes. And even a white gear can be useful, as it provides more gem and rune slots. As for gems, it's a typical infusing mechanic. Gems can also be directly bought, of course. Runes are weapon skills. Each weapon comes with at least one rune, and you can extract a rune and inject it into another weapon. Upgrading is pretty plain and I don't need to explain it. With such an overlook, we can find that the gear mechanics in No Rest for the Wicked are rather simple for a looter game, making it much friendlier than other games. But there are many irreversible steps in the aforementioned process. For example, you cannot re-enchant an already enchanted gear, but have to find a new white gear. You cannot extract the gem once it's infused, and extracting the rune destroys the weapon. So I think it's a way to make players spend more time in this game given the rather simple mechanics. As a final recap, I think it's much more reasonable to interpret No Rest for the Wicked from the perspective of a looter game. Both Souls-like and survival designs are integrated into this looter game to tackle the two major pains of this genre. Souls-like combat to make the combat more engaging, and survival elements to make the grinding less heavy. This novel perspective has made me more fond of this game's design, and I hope it can also help you better understand this game. If you like my story or want to draw me into depth of games, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, see you around.